Hey everybody, welcome to Light Tackle Week. So this week we will be dropping videos every day with a star-studded cast, and we're going to be covering everything you need to know about light tackle fishing on the Chesapeake Bay. So this is all going to be leading up to our big sales event, April 13th. So for full details on the event, visit our website, anglersannapolis.com. So again, I said our star-studded cast. So every video we bring you this week is going to have guys who really know what they're doing from the industry, or from fishing on the bay, and we're lucky today to have Ron from JLS Custom Rods, who's hitting both ends of it, because you're a custom rod maker, but you also guide on the Chesapeake, which makes you the perfect person to do this video for us. So Ron, obviously you make JLS rods, right?
Yep.
And I think for a lot of people, when we start talking about light tackle fishing on the bay, the first question becomes, what am I gonna use, right? And so most of what that ends up equaling is me calling my buddy and seeing what he uses and what he likes. And a lot of times we kind of do that willy-nilly. Like, we don't even know why we're doing it. We just know they told us, so we do it. So love to talk through kind of how we pick these rods and really what the advantages and disadvantages are of the different types of rods. And I think, like, just starting off with our bread and butter stuff, striped bass jigging, obviously huge on the bay, and you make some of the most popular jigging rods on the bay. So why don't you give us a quick walkthrough on the who, where, what, when, and why?
So our most popular model for the light tackle jigging is the 6'3".
Yeah.
In spinning or casting. This is a spinning model. It's a medium extra fast, and the reason why we like that is the sensitivity that the rod offers, and then we like a little bit shorter of a rod, some of us. And that's just because you're jigging it. It's not going to hit your T-top. You're not banging it off your gunnel all the time. And also a lot of times when you're jigging, you just don't need a very long rod. You can still cast very far, and we recommend this particular rod up to jigs 1 ounces. And then in the wintertime when we're jigging a little heavier, we step up to the medium heavy. And this is what I've been using all winter, was the medium heavy for our jigging, and we're throwing 1.5 ounce jigs on that pretty much every time we're out, and it works perfect for it and handles the weight of the jig a little better.
So what do you think, Ron, is the big difference? Love that. So we got our medium for our main season of fishing. We got our medium heavies, right, for our winter fishing. So what in your mind is that big difference, right? Because it's always rod length. What is that big difference between your 6'3" and your 6'6"? I think you touched on it a little bit with, your T-top, but what do you feel like that performance-wise?
Well, like I said, I don't like it banging off of things while I'm jigging. And then also when you shorten the rod, it's going to transmit sensitivity a little better.
Okay.
So you'll get a little more feeling out of it just because it's less material in the rod, than the graphite and everything. And then it'll be a little bit lighter as well. And when you're jigging all day, fatigue is definitely a factor. So a light rod always helps with that.
I know. It's funny. I think everybody poo-poos it, but fatigue is a real thing when you're fishing all day. And I love the 6'3" rod. Not many people make it, and I think it definitely has its place out there.
Yep.
So moving on, we'll stick on striped bass here, but I think the other big thing, if we like put the light tackle stuff into a bucket, we kind of have our jigging, and then we have our topwater, our casting versions. So kind of what do you like for that?
For my topwater, I pretty much exclusively use the medium heavy rod, and that's for saltwater topwater. Because the plugs are usually about an ounce or so, and I like it 7 foot or a little bit longer, just because I'm trying to stay back from the shoreline and cast in the shallow water. I don't want to spook the fish. I need a rod that can handle it, and our medium heavy has enough of a flex in the tip that it still walks the dog well. For those of you that run the walk the dog baits. But it'll also run a popper very well as well. So it's a great all-around rod. If I had to pick just one that I was going to buy, it probably would be the medium heavy, just because I could do the topwater, the lures, and jig with it as well.
Right. And what length do you like for that kind of?
7 foot.
7 foot.
That's my favorite length in that. And like I said, because I'm usually trying to cast further, that I am. I don't want to spook the fish. I'm staying back away from the bank and throwing into them.
That's awesome. Awesome. So let's move on to kind of some of the, the new fads, right, are all people light tackle fishing for drum, for cobia. So let's touch on kind of those a little bit, because I think that's kind of less known for everybody.
So my drum fishing, I split that up into 2 different sections of the bay. If I'm fishing the middle section of the bay, I pretty much use the 704. And that's because in the middle section of the bay, we have basically no structure. The fish are just in open water. You don't have to worry about like them getting hung up on anything or stopping them from getting into anything. So I'll use the 704. When I go further south into the bay, I pretty much do not even carry the 704 on the boat, and I use the X Heavy, the 14 to 30 pound.
So first off, the 704 is a 7'2" rod.
Yes.
And
you
this
guys carry it in 6'10" and 7'2".
And this is a heavy action.
That's heavy power. Correct.
Okay. So that's what we're talking about for the middle of the bay.
Right. That's
here.
going to be a 12 to 20 pound rod, and I like that. And that's also very good for the bluefish. Several captains last year were using that for those bigger bluefish that came into the bay. Because you know a 28 or 30 inch bluefish fights pretty hard. You know, it's harder than a 20 or 30 inch striper. And then they could also throw the heavier metal that they were using on it. So that was really popular for that as well.
Right. So going back to this rod for, or that, sorry, I cut you off when you were starting to talk on that one. Yeah, go ahead.
So this one here, this is just going to be a step up in power from that rod. It's basically the same rod. It's got a little bit longer handle. It's got more power in the backbone because it is a 14 to 30 pound rod. So you can put the brakes on those bigger fish a little bit more if you're trying to keep them out of structure.
Right.
Or you're fishing around structure. It'll also handle a heavier jig a little bit better. So I go to this, and then I also will use this rod for light cobia work as well. And I'm talking about like, you know, the mid 40s cobia. Now, if I'm getting around structure with the cobia, I do step up and I go to our XX Heavy, which is a 17 to 34 pound rod. And that's basically just the difference in that one is it's got a little more power in the backbone than this. And then we step up the double foot guides for our first 4. And then that's just our big fish rod, you know. And the other nice thing about these extra heavy and the heavies, we do use a full grip with a gimbal butt on them. So you can fish them out of the rod holder, or you know, with these reels, because you know most people when they use a rod like this, they're using a 6,000 or 8,000 series reel. Right. You don't want it swinging around on your rod holder while you're underway. So that's where the gimbal butt comes into play.
Love it. So yeah, so in the cobia and the drum, really a lot of it is more based on how you want to handle the fish more than how you're working a lure. It's more your application. Like, hey, I'm around structure. I need to. That's as it were, horse these
That's
fish
how
in.
I decide which of these 3 models I'm going to use. The size of the fish and also whether I'm around structure.
Yeah, and I love the way this is built out too. So like Ron was saying, you've got this nice longer butt end, right? Whereas in the 704, you know, we've got more of the split grip style. So it's also like he's saying, you need the power to horse a fish out, but it's also nice to be able to get that up under your arm and be able to really crank down on it. So that I can definitely see big advantages there. That's really, really nice. So as staying on that kind of same mode of like, let's talk about the other fisheries here. Sea trout's become a really big thing on the bay. Lots of people are doing that, and I think that's another one where people are probably like, hey, what should I be using for this type of fishing?
We do really well. A lot of our anglers are going with our medium light, and it's basically the same as the rest of our Premier Series rods. It's just going to have a little less power in the backbone and a lot flimsier tip. And I shouldn't say flimsy. It's going to have a slower tip.
Right.
And the reason why is you're going to be throwing like 1/4 ounce, 3/8 ounce jig heads with a little 3 or 4 inch paddle tail. You're going to need to be able to cast a lighter lure a long way, and that the action in that rod helps with that. And that's why a lot of people like the medium light.
Nice, nice. And so while we're on that same thing, we can kind of go back to the bluefish / mackerel. So we actually have this nice guy set up. You made this specifically for rain minnows, but essentially this ends up being a metal type rod for mackerel. So why don't we talk about that too a little bit?
Very popular rod for the mackerel especially, and the bluefish. Now this one was actually designed by LJ at GI Jigs himself, and he had us make it for him. This one has a moderate tip, so you're gonna be able to cast the rain minnows and small metal jigs like that a long way, but yet it's still got the backbone in here to handle the fish, even those larger bluefish. Nice. And actually, we have a lot of people that like this rod for speckled trout as well because of the tipping.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yes, I've had several guys tell me that they use it for that as well.
Nice.
But this rod here it was kind of like a special run that we did for you guys,
right.
and it's been very popular.
Awesome.
So,
awesome stuff.
And as you can see, Mike's even got it paired up with the combo. You can get the rain minnow and the reel, line, rod, and everything.
So before I let you go, I think that was kind of a good quick rundown for everybody on like what they should be looking at, what you would need to fish on the bay, light tackle fish on the bay. But let's talk about the graphite, right, and quality, because again, I could go and I could say, okay, like, yeah, this company makes a 6.6 medium. We all know they're not all built the same. And I do know you make several different lines of rod, but why don't you just speak to why it's important to have a good quality graphite, just in general, when you're out there fishing, like what advantages you feel like that gives you?
So in graphite fishing rods like we normally use for bass, snakeheads, and inshore, you basically have three kinds. You have standard modulus, mid modulus, and high modulus. Your standard modulus is going to be, we don't use it at JLS. It's like a lower grade. We use the mid modulus because that gives a great price point as well as sensitivity. And then we also do have high modulus rods, and those are going to be our BMF line of rods. And these are high modulus. They come with titanium Fuji guides. All of our rods have Fuji guides, but these have the titanium. And then basically the difference between the mid modulus and the high modulus is on the high mod rods, the rod itself is going to be about 20% lighter than our mid modulus series. And it's also going to be a lot more sensitive because when they put the graphite together in these rods, there's a technology that allows them to use less of the glue that binds it as well as less of the material. So that's basically where your sensitivity and weight savings comes from.
Nice.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, Ron. I appreciate you coming out here and participating in Light Tackle Week with us. Ron was also nice enough, so he donated a 6.3 jigging rod. So you're going to see that on a raffle. Any purchase of rods, reels, or combos, you're just going to get you into that raffle to win those prizes. And also, we're going to have big savings. So during the event, it's 15% off all rods, reels, and combos. So Ron's rods will be on sale. And then we're also adding a big bonus. We're going to have a trade-in tent outside. So bring in your old rod, reel, or combo. We're going to donate that, and we're going to give you an extra 10% off. So it'll actually be you donate your old stuff, added with the discount we already have. It's going to be 25% off. It's the biggest discount we've ever given on rods or reels, so it's a great time to come in, stock up. Obviously, as Ron just told you, you need at least 10 different rods of his if you're going to fish on the bay. So I think that's great. Thanks again, Ron, for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us, Mike.
Yeah, man. Awesome.